Devil's Reign has been an exhilarating Daredevil-based event so far, one that takes inspiration from some of Daredevil's most iconic and classic tales while offering a unique twist or interesting perspective as the event simultaneously calls back to some of those most heartening moments from Daredevil's and Kingpin's histories. Join me as we count down the top 10 Devil's Reign facts you need to know. Number 10. Mike Murdock. Mike Murdock used to simply be a disguise that Matt would use whenever he needed to go undercover. Mike was essentially Matt pretending to be his long-lost twin brother, Mike. His twin brother who wasn't blind, but did happen to look just like Matt. This was a guise that Matt would slip in and out of for years whenever it was useful or convenient for him to do so. However, recently in the comics, Mike was actually given a full life of his own when the Inhuman Reader accidentally used his powers to bring Mike to life. For real, allowing him to exist separate from Matt, believing he was in fact Matt Murdock's brother. Long-lost twin brother. Reader described Mike as a fragment, and initially sought to erase Mike's existence. In fact, Matt himself also attempted to do so as well, but in the end decided against it and chose to let Mike go after backing him into a corner, unable to get rid of the fragment who had become essentially Matt's real-life twin brother. I mean, when you have a twin brother, why let that go? Just let it be a thing. Mike appears in Devil's Reign, and it is important to be aware that he is now a separate entity from Matt, one who also allied himself with Fisk in the past for protection and is good friends with Butch, who is believed to be Fisk's illegitimate son and is currently the new Kingpin of New York. Number 9. Elektra As Daredevil. More recently in the comics, Elektra has actually become Daredevil as well. This all went down as Matt Murdock was preparing to go to prison. To keep Hell's Kitchen safe, he'd set up a plan where Tony Stark could bid to buy the borough of New York. This plan, however, didn't go exactly as he'd hoped, when instead Elektra decided to outbid Stark for the area. Despite the fact that she had recently remembered Daredevil's true identity and had an argument with Matt about him surrendering himself and going to prison, Elektra offered to be the one to protect Hell's Kitchen, while Matt did what he felt he must do. After Matt went to prison, Elektra took up the mantle of Daredevil. So in case you were wondering why there are two Daredevils and why Elektra was DD as well, here is your answer. And something important to note going into this series is that there is Matt Murdock DD and Elektra DD, so two Daredevils. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists about Devil's Reign, it is still ongoing and there's lots still to talk about, so be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Mayor Fisk. In case you weren't aware, Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, is now mayor, and has been for a little while in the comics. He ended up being elected as the mayor of New York in part by winning over the masses, but mainly by fixing the vote to ensure his victory. He promised the people of New York that he would outlaw Vigilantism and fight to bring self-titled heroes like the Punisher and even soups like Spider-Man to justice. Daredevil pretended to join Fisk, but intended to use his position to betray Wilson and capture him, banding together with fellow heroes to take him down. However, this plan didn't go quite according to plan. Fisk was expecting such a thing to happen and instead had the heroes arrested. For a time he was in a coma and Matt Murdock took over as mayor, but once Fisk recovered, he took back the title and the responsibilities of the office. And Wilson Fisk also has designs on another, even bigger government role and office for himself, which you'll find out about in this event. Number 7. Daredevil's Secret Identity. Daredevil's secret identity is back under wraps, and if you're wondering how all this happened because you remember him literally admitting to being Daredevil, it went down in the Purple story arc of Charles Soule's 2016 run on Daredevil. Here, Daredevil attempts to help the Purple children, Kilgrave's kids, who when joined together turn purple and get their father's powers. Some of the children are being held prisoner so that the Purple Man can harness their power to use for himself, making him impossibly strong to face. Daredevil, who normally has the willpower to resist the Purple Man's commands, actually finds himself unable to, as he struggles with his own identity and his sense of self. In the end, Daredevil is able to find himself and defeat Kilgrave in the process, and the Purple children, feeling bad for DD, who admitted in a court of law and is known the world over as then former attorney Matt Murdock, decide to use their power to help him, making everyone forget that Matt and Daredevil are one and the same person and giving Matt back his secret identity. And when I say everyone, that includes Wilson Fisk, which is a major part of the reason that Fisk is so obsessed with Daredevil currently. He wants to know who he is, desperately seeking to unmask and destroy him, which sounds disturbingly familiar to past events, which Didn't end well for Matt last time. Number 6. Typhoid Mary Fisk. A while back, Wilson Fisk was attempting to use newfound power to bring back his beloved Vanessa, but was dissuaded from this plan when he was forced to consider if his wife Vanessa would have actually wanted to be brought back. And I mean, let's say she did. Would she even want to see Fisk, let alone be with him? As a result of this revelation, Fisk attempted to resurrect his and Vanessa's son Richard instead. This didn't work out as he planned, but the good news is that he found a way to move forward with his love life. The fact that Daredevil's identity was also wiped clean from his mind and his personal files likely also helped this love connection to grow. That is right, Fisk ended up partnering up romantically with his longtime right-hand woman and partner in crime, Typhoid Mary. The two of them even got married and now are partners in every sense of the word. The only problem is that Mary's trauma, or perhaps something else, seems to be blocking out some of the memories of their romantic past. Number 5. Vigilantism Outlawed. Despite the fact that Daredevil made Fisk promise to stop his pursuit of vigilantes, Wilson instead has continued on that path, but decided to outlaw only those who refuse to join up with the government. In other words, if you are a supervillain or a superhero who is a willing ally yourself with the city of New York and with Mayor Fisk, you are pretty much fine. But if you decide that joining up with a villain like Kingpin is not something you're interested in, you are considered an outlaw by the mayor, government, and law enforcement. Number 4. Kingpin's Thunderbolts. Something we actually also saw happening during the King in Black event was Kingpin pulling together his own team of Thunderbolts, after acquiring the team name. His version of the Thunderbolts, like many other iterations of the team, features supervillains who are acting as heroes. Kinda. Of course, in this case, they are supervillains who are acting as heroes on behalf of Kingpin himself, a major supervillain in the comics. So take that with a grain of salt. But all in all, it's pretty interesting. This isn't Hawkeye's Thunderbolts team. The Thunderbolts here are also working with the police of New York City in an attempt to keep order and to take down any illegal vigilantes who are out on the streets. Kingpin's Thunderbolts team, since it was first brought together, has included Rhino, Taskmaster, Star, Mr. Fear, Bartrock the Leaper, Snakehead, Ampere, Manbull, Fool Killer, Mr. Hyde, Grizzly, Figment, US Agent, Shocker, Dr. Octopus, Electro, and Agony. Many teammates have also died during their time serving on Kingpin's Thunderbolts, so he doesn't have a great track record for keeping people alive right now. And hence why there's been so many of them. They come on, they die, he's like, let me get somebody else. Number 3. Superior 4. The Superior 4 started as another team of Mayor Fisk's, although they quickly evolved into something more aligned with Otto Octavius' own motives. Otto, you see, decided to sign up with Fisk as one of his own superpowered enforcers, simply because, well, he wanted to get his hands on the Baxter building, which the Fantastic Four were forced to abandon when Mayor Fisk's cronies came to seize any and all projects the FF was working on and arrest all the team members. Because, you know, they're illegal superheroes. They initially managed to capture Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, but their children, the Thing, and the Human Torch all managed to get away. In their place, Otto decided to create his own version of the team, scouring the multiverse for alternate versions of him, who also happen to be alternate versions of the FF's backup roster. So now we have the Superior 4 led by 616 Otto, and featuring Otto versions of Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and, you guessed it, the Hulk. Pretty great. Number 2. Purple Man. So how is Kingpin managing to get all the people of New York to stand with him, considering how wild everything is getting, and how he's attempting to take on some of the most beloved superheroes of New York? Well, he has more than a few tricks up his sleeve when it comes to his control over New York City. One very powerful one is the Purple Man, aka Zebediah Killgrave, who, despite seemingly dropping dead in issue 17 of the 2016 Jessica Jones series in a final moment of atonement, is actually still alive. I know. He's got a really powerful healing factor, and it turned out that one of his purple children actually manipulated Captain Marvel into merely thinking she had thrown his corpse up into the sun, so that he could use his father's corpse for his own means. This inevitably ended up leading to Purple Man escaping, ending up back in prison at the Raft, and then ultimately falling into the hands of Mayor Wilson Fisk, who used Killgrave's influence for his own means. Number 1. The Avengers' Mayoral Candidate. Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock haven't been the only ones seemingly showing an interest in politics and acting as mayor of New York, or at least aiming to become mayor of New York perhaps. The Avengers also have their own plan when it comes to beating Mayor Fisk. They want to nominate their own eligible candidate to become mayor of New York. Initially, Iron Man's plan was to run for mayor as billionaire Tony Stark, but fortunately they came up with something even better. Their current pick for candidate just so happens to be fan favorite street level hero Luke Cage. You know, I also want to see Luke Cage as mayor of New York, so I'm really hoping that this plan works. That sounds like an awesome story in and of itself that I would definitely want to read. They're going to have their work cut out for them, unfortunately, when it comes to fighting against Fisk, who, as we said, is using Purple Man's influence to bend the city to his own will, and important people around him to his own will. But I think nominating Cage for mayor is a very solid plan, so long as they can find a way to get New York somewhat unbrainwashed and back to normal. Hopefully. They're gonna have to probably take a lot of stuff away from Fisk before this will be possible, but I believe in Luke Cage as mayor. Are you reading along with the Devil's Reign event? What have been some of your favorite moments from the story thus far? What are you hoping to see or explore in Devil's Reign? Are you a fan of character-based events like this? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Till next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.